Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be answering one very simple question. Should you play a Paladin in classic Wrath of the Lich King? We're going to be covering a number of very important topics. First of all, new spells, new talents, their viability, and also the difficulty of the class. So the Paladin is essentially the warrior version of a priest. A very selfless warrior with utility and buffs for the raid, but Wrath of the Lich King, they also pack one hell of a punch on the DPS meters. They transition to become less of a support spec and more just a pumper spec. And to be honest, a lot of specs do this in Wrath of the Lich King. And Retribution Paladin is the spec that really becomes one of the best AoE cleaving machines of Wrath of the Lich King. Retribution is obviously the melee DPS spec. You got Protection, which is the tank spec, and Holy, which is the healing spec. By the way guys, if you're looking to get a Paladin ready for Wrath of the Lich King or any other class, you might want to check out the Rest XP leveling guide. It's an extremely fast leveling guide made by power levelers, and if you do decide to get the guide, you will be massively supporting the channel. So let's take a little look at all the brand spanking new cool spells that you're going to get in Wrath. First of all, one of the coolest abilities is definitely going to be Divine Storm. An instant weapon attack that causes weapon damage up to 4 enemies within 8 yards, but it also will heal anyone close to you for 25% of the damage caused. Although this is an AoE ability, it will actually be part of the Retribution Paladin's single target rotation. It's what gives Retribution Paladin natural cleave, so they are essentially a spec that is just constantly cleaving, which is very, very useful. Next we have Seal of Command. Obviously this ability has been in the game since Classic, but it is very different in Wrath, so it's going to deal that 491 to 604 damage, on melee hits and everything like that. But if you use a single target ability like Crusader Strike, it will also cleave to 2 additional targets. Next we have Hammer of the Righteous. This is a Protection Paladin ability, and it's a very simple melee strike ability that also affects 2 additional targets. Paladins also finally get a actual single target taunt now, which is called Hand of Reckoning, and it also deals a little bit of holy damage too. We also have Shield of Righteousness, which is another Protection Paladin ability that deals holy damage based on your block value plus an extra 520. Divine Protection has also changed to be much more useful, so it reduces all damage taken by 50% for 15 seconds. And this means Protection Paladins actually do have a really good defensive cooldown now to protect themselves against big boss damage, because this won't have that effect where you totally drop aggro, like when you pop Divine Shield or something. Next we have the Holy Paladin ability called Beacon of Light. Basically, you put Beacon on a target, and then whenever you heal a different target, it will also heal the target that you put Beacon on. So you can just leave it on a tank, and then while you're healing a DPS who's stepped in fire, you will also be healing the tank, so you never feel like you're gonna, let the tank die by healing a DPS. Next we also have Sacred Shield, so whenever a target takes damage they absorb a little bit of damage, but it also increases the chance of that Paladin to critically hit with their Flash of Light by 50% for up to 12 seconds. We also get a mana return ability called Divine Play. It's going to return 25% of your total mana, but reduce the amount of healing that you deal by 50% for 15 seconds. Aura Mastery has changed slightly too. It causes your concentration aura to make all affected targets immune to silence and interrupt effects, and improve the effect of all of auras by 100%, and it lasts 6 seconds. Blessing of Sacrifice has changed to being called Hand of Sacrifice, and what it will do is transfer 40% of the damage taken to whoever casted it basically, so it's great to pop on a tank to reduce their damage. And it's on a 2-minute cooldown rather than being a buff that you can keep reapplying. Hand of Salvation has changed similarly as well. It's now a 2-minute cooldown and reduced the threat on the target by 2% every 1 second for 10 seconds. Seals have also changed a little bit. You still have Seal of Light, Seal of Righteousness and Seal of Wisdom. Seal of Command with the changes that I explained earlier. You still have Seal of Vengeance. But we have a new one called Seal of Justice, which has a chance to stun the target on melee hits. So Seal of a Martyr and Seal of Blood has been totally removed by the time of 3.3 anyway. They might decide to keep it, but it was removed in 3.2. So most Retribution Paladins, they just use Seal of Vengeance, single target, Seal of Command for cleave. You still have Judgment of the Light and Judgment of Wisdom, but we also have Judgment of Justice now. This stops enemies from fleeing and also limits their movement speed. And those are all the, new spells and new big major spell changes, but now let's move on to talents. So there's a little bit of reshuffling when it comes to talents, and there's definitely a lot of cool, powerful talents added to all the different Paladin trees. So as you can see, first of all, everything's been shuffled around, Divine Strength is in the Protection tree now, and Spiritual Focus has been moved up, Divine Intellect has been moved down. Basically, these first two tiers have just been shuffled around a little bit, and that's about it. So the first change is Unyielding Faith reduces the duration of all Fear and Disorientate effects now. Improved Lay on Hands will reduce the physical damage taken by the target by 15 seconds and reduce the cooldown by 4 minutes. We have this new talent called Blessed Hands. It's going to reduce the mana cost of Hand of Freedom, Sacrifice and Salvation, and increase the effectiveness of Salvation and Sacrifice as well. Pure of Heart has also changed. It's going to reduce the duration rather than increasing your resistances to Curse, Disease and Poison effects. Purifying Power is half the same, but it reduces the cooldown of Exorcism and Holy Wrath by 33% rather than increasing their critical strike chance. We have a new talent here, Sacred Cleansing. Your cleanse spell has a 30% chance to increase the target's resistance to disease, magic and poison effects by 30% for 10 seconds. We also have Judgments of a Pure, increase the damage to your seal and judgment effects by 25%, and your judgment spells increase your casting and melee haste by 15% for 1 minute. Infusion of Light, which causes your Holy Shock crits to reduce the cast time of your next Flash of Light by 1.5 seconds, and increase the crit chance of your next Holy Light by 20%. Also causes your Flash of Light to heal targets with Sacred Shield for an additional 100% over 12 seconds. Enlightened Judgment increases the range of Judgment of Light and Judgment of Wisdom by 30 yards and increases your chance to hit by 4%. And then also we obviously have Beacon of Light at the bottom of the Holy Tree. But let's move on to Protection. So Holy had a lot of changes, but Protection honestly not that much other than talents being moved around a little bit. The first new talent here is Divine Guardian, and also Divine Sacrifice. So 30% of all damage taken by party members within 30 yards is redirected to Paladin, up to a maximum of 40% of the Paladin's health. And then any damage that gets a Paladin below 20% health will actually break the effect. And then with Divine Guardian up, you also have 20% absolute damage reduction for all your party members for 6 seconds. And it also increases the duration of your Sacred Shield by 100% and the amount absorbed by 20%. Improved Devo Aura also increases the amount of healing by 6%. Reckoning now has a 10% chance to occur after blocking a hit. One-handed weapon spec has been buffed to 10%. Ardent Defender only now needs 3 talent points to max it out. And as you can see, Spiritual Attunement now, unfortunately, well actually it's not really unfortunately because Retribution Paladins have other ways to get mana back, they never have mana issues. But for a Protection Paladin, it is now one of their talents, Spiritual Attunement, which is, everyone knows about this. You gain mana when you gain healing. There's no improved Holy Shield either, it just has 8 charges. We also have a really good talent, which basically means that we never have to really stack spell power gear, because your spell power is increased by 60% of your strength, and it also increases the amount healed by your critical heals by 30%. Guided by the Light reduces spell damage taken by 6% and gives you 100% chance to refresh the duration of your Divine Plea when you hit an enemy. We now finally have the Shield of a Templar talent, which causes your Avenger's Shield to not just daze the targets but also silence them for 3 seconds, which is really good for pulling caster enemies. We also have Judgment of a Loss, reduces the cooldown of Hammer Justice by 10 seconds, increase the duration of your Seal of Justice effect by 1 second, and Judgment spells also reduce the melee attack speed of a target by 20%, and then obviously we have Hammer of the Righteous at the bottom of the Protection tree. But now let's move on to Retribution. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a switcheroo again. Deflection is higher up, probably so that Protection Paladins have an easier time getting that talent, and then Improved Blessing of Might only requires 2 points. Pursuit of Justice now reduces the effect of disarm effects by 50%. Sanctuary Aura has actually been removed and replaced with this talent, which increases the damage caused by Ret Aura by 50%, and all damage caused by friendly targets affected by one of your auras is increased by 3%. Divine Purpose has been buffed slightly, so reduces the chance to be hit by spells and ranged attacks by 4% and gives your Hand of Freedom spell 100% chance to remove any stun effects on the target. We now finally have Art of War as well, so increase the damage of Judgment, Crusader Strike, Divine Storm by 10%, and when your melee attacks crit, your next Flash of Light Exorcism spell will become an instant cast. So Exorcism in Wrath is actually a cast ability, not an instant cast ability anymore, but Art of War will make it an instant. We also now finally have the Judgment of the Wise talent, which means you never have mana issues ever again. So what it does is it causes a mana regen effect on the party, regenerates 1% of maximum mana for 5 seconds, per 5 seconds for 15 seconds, but will also instantly gain you back 15% of your base mana, and when you include Divine Plea on top of that, you just never have mana issues anymore. Sanctified Wrath increases your crit chance to hammer Wrath by 50%, reduces the cooldown of Avenging Wrath by 60 seconds, and while affected by Avenging Wrath, 50% of all damage caused bypasses damage reduction effects. Very, very powerful indeed in PvP. Your auras also increase casting, ranged and melee attack speeds by 3%. Sheath of Light increases your spell power equal to 30% of your attack power, and your critical healing spells heal the target 6% over 12 seconds. We also have Righteous Defense. Your Judgment, Crusader Strike and Divine Storm spells, whenever they deal critical strike, the target will also take 30% additional damage over 8 seconds. Then we have, obviously, Divine Storm at the bottom of the tree. So those are all the, big changes. I definitely think Holy got way more changes than Protection and Retribution. There's actually a glyph that's important to mention called Glyph of Holy Light, which causes your Holy Light to also heal people near the person affected by Holy Light. So it basically allows the Holy Paladin to actually finally become an AoE healer. I mean, the only thing they don't have is a heal over time effect. But let's talk about how viable are these specs. So first of all, we'll start with Retribution. So Retribution, I'm going to say, is B to S tier. Why do I say that? Very simple, cold hard truth is it's a scaling spec. Okay, it's going to scale to become better and better as the expansion goes on and on. Don't get me wrong, in Phase 1, they're going to pump on the cleave fights because we have such good cleave damage. They will top the meters, but their single target damage is slightly lacking. But in the Raid v Trial of Grand Crusader, when they get their tier set, this is when they really start to pump. And then obviously in Icecrown Citadel as well. They just have stupid cleave damage in this game, probably the best instantaneous cleave damage. When there's those situations where ads are only up for a short period of time, Retribution Paladin's going to top the meters because we just have absolutely no ramp up time like in Holy Death Knight that has to put their dots up and then spread it. Ret Paladin just has to instantly cast buttons and he's already AoEing. It's probably already AoEing without even realising. For the Protection Paladin, it's considered the best tank by many in Wrath of the Lich King, so I'm going to put it in S tier. They're very beefy. If you have a great defensive cooldown now, they have great AoE threat. Single target threat is also great, not going to outmatch a Blood Death Knight, but still great. And they have much more tools now to, heal themselves with Sacred Shield and things like that. So, Holy Paladin, S tier again. Like I said, that Glyph of Holy Light glyph is just insane. Very easy to cheese the meters in Wrath of the Lich King with that glyph. The only real downside to a Holy Paladin is they have absolutely no hots, which means, you probably will just have to be spamming heals a lot, but the healing is great, so you really cannot complain. It really is just a playstyle difference there. Resto Druid is the one with the hots, the Holy Paladin is the one with the big beefy heals. So let's talk about the difficulty of all the specs. Retribution Paladin, it is fairly easy. It's very easy and it's very fun. Obviously there are some things you can do to, increase your DPS which are a little bit more challenging, but overall Retribution Paladin is a fairly great beginner class to start with. Protection Paladin are put down as medium to difficult. It really depends on, how experienced you are playing a tank and what boss you're actually dealing with, but you're going to find tanking dungeons really, really easy playing a Protection Paladin because your AoE threat is great, your survivability is great. For Holy, I put as easy to medium. Again, it really depends on what content you're clearing. Shouldn't have too many mana issues, even with Divine Illumination being nerfed. Honestly, as long as you're spamming Holy Light, you're probably always going to top the meters and always keep the raid alive. Obviously, you shouldn't be doing that all the time, just spamming Holy Light. There is more to it than that, but that is a good way to cheese the meters. But anyway, guys, that is going to be the end of the video there. Let me know in the comment section what class you want me to cover next. My name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.